Hey, it's Bruce Smith. Welcome to this episode, a special episode of Unlock Your Retirement today. We are so excited. We just had two live events with people, and I mean the response was beyond overwhelming. We had over 90% of the people in attendance requested appointments. So we thought it'd be cool today to actually share with you kind of what we put out there, what we talk about that people were so excited about. And I mean, hands down, the biggest accolade was how different it was. So that's where we're going to be today, Tony.
Yeah, well, I get Bruce ever since, I'm 60 now, and about the only physical mail I get anymore are invites to dinners from financial advisors. And over the years, because I've worked in the financial industry past 13 years doing voiceover work, podcasts, radio, and as you know, you and I have both worked alongside and met a lot of people in this industry. And so I've been to a few of these, not really as a guest, but just because as a friend, because I know them and I want to check out what they're saying for my own good, my wife and I, and just to get a kind of see where they're at. And they all have pretty much been the same. And then I met you, and you have a different way of twisting things around and looking at it from a different perspective. It's a more elite wealth management perspective, which is why you call it that. WealthKare is different, and when you do a seminar or a workshop or an educational event for folks, it is different. It's not typical. And I think that's a big, big thing. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what you talk about in your, in this and some of the key takeaways for people, right?
You hit the nail on the head. That's when we start. The very first thing I say, how I ask how many people have never attended a retirement workshop, and that number is waning. See people have been to multiple workshops.
Yeah.
I said, look, let me set the stage for you. Number one, I said, every advisor says the same thing. I'm different, and this is what's so great about what we do. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm not going to tell you I'm different. I said, I'm going to leave that entirely up to you tonight. But I said, I think what you're going to see, you're going to enjoy. It's going to be educational. You're going to get takeaways. That's the name of the game. And so this one, we've said before the last few weeks on the show that, elite wealth planning begins where traditional planning stops. So traditional planning goes up to a point and just kind of drops off a cliff, and it's 95% of its portfolio management. So this is beyond portfolio compounding. This is really I say it's a new approach to maximizing the lifetime value of your retirement wealth. Is it a brand new approach? No, but it is an approach that's been used for years, decades by wealthy people. It's not something that is typically seen as available for the average advisor or for the average consumer. Most of the advisors that function at this level have kind of closed off their book of business. The only way you can get in the door is through a referral if they're taking new clients at all. But we're using our experience, we're using our tools, we're using our knowledge, and things have become more efficient where you can offer this to people. So today we're going to kind of break open the doors and let them see, what, like if they attended this event, what are some of the things they would have learned, and share that with everybody because I want them to realize what's available out there.
Yeah. Well, I think this is really good. I know that you talk about, you say this is beyond your portfolio compounding, and that's what you're talking about. It's beyond just managing a portfolio. It's a really unique approach to maximizing the lifetime value of your retirement wealth, which is what you title it. And I think that's a great topic to come in with today, Bruce. First of all, Bruce, you've been busy with these seminars, with everything going on. Every time before the show, I want our listeners and viewers to understand that my brain does not work the way Bruce Smith's brain does, and I doubt too many people's do, because you have so much going on and you're able to compartmentalize and really, I'm always amazed at how you can keep everything going. You're really great. Of course, it helps. You have a great team behind you. Both the staff at WealthKare, and it's a team. It's a family. It's more than just a staff. But you have other advisors, and you work with other financial professionals. You have a great back end through Gradient, and I think it's fantastic what you're doing there. But you wear me out, Bruce. Let's bottom line this. I'm tired. I wasn't tired coming into this. I drank about 40 cups of coffee this morning, thinking I'm going to keep up with Bruce today. And boy, was I wrong. You started telling me what you've been doing, how many appointments you've set up, all the people you're meeting with. And I'm like, how do you do it? And uh, you don't sleep. Your brain operates at a level I can only dream about. So I can't even fathom it. So this is going to be fun, digging into that great mind of yours and figuring out what's going on. You said traditional planning stops short. And, again, a lot of it's focused on accumulation. You mentioned that. So where do we go from here?
Well, that you hit a good point. Traditional planning stops short, and we start with that. What does that mean? And I tell people, I say, whenever you were building your wealth, and for most people today, they don't have a pension; they've got a nest egg of a certain dollar value, and it's typically the combined nest egg of the husband and the wife in most cases. So how did they get there? It's not they've done anything wrong. They've done everything right. They've
Yeah.
accumulated wealth. It's compounded. They've contributed. Employer has contributed, has matched monies. All these things work. So the focus is on growing the pile. So starting from nothing, start contributing, building that retirement account and growing the pile. And so traditional planning, everything you hear in the retirement planning circles is really it's an engine or a vehicle that's built to focus on accumulation, which is getting you to retirement. But when you get there, that's when it stops, and it's not really built to optimize how the wealth is distributed, how it's taxed, or how it'll be transferred to your heirs when you're gone. That is not an accumulation question. Those unique questions about distribution for income, taxation, and transfer. So it can leave a lot of money on the table if you haven't optimized the control that you have for the risk, to control taxes, to control and maximize your income, and seriously control the legacy value that is planned to be handed off to your family instead of you just getting what's left over. So
Yeah.
that's when we say traditional planning is short. That's the key. That's
Yeah.
the big difference.
Well, you're right, and I'm glad you're drawing the difference, and there are stark differences between traditional financial planning and what you do. Um, and I know in these workshops and seminars you do, and when you talk to people, you a lot of times you say, ask yourself one question, and I know you have a few of these, right? You have a few questions. You always say, ask yourself one question. There's more than one, but you start off with one. What is that?
And this is the core one. This is the one that really everybody should be thinking about. If you're out there listening, it's like, hey, ask yourself this question. Will you and your family receive the maximum lifetime benefit from your accumulated retirement wealth? I think we said on the show last week, that's everybody's looking for some kind of performance enhancement. How do I get the most out of what I've accumulated? But it's always focused on the portfolio. So most people aren't sure. And here's the deal. If you're not sure, if you haven't focused on that, if you hadn't had that question answered for your retirement finances, that uncertainty is really the primary contributor to considerable costs that otherwise can be avoided with an elite wealth level plan.
Well, you're right, and you wanna make sure that, uh, you don't want Uncle Sam and Aunt Irma, and other illegitimate family members who aren't actually your family to take all your money, and I don't like, usually there's that one mean aunt, and that's Aunt Irma, and Uncle Sam who's trying to get the family wealth. Those are the bad aunt and uncle, not the cool he's not the cool uncle. He's the one that wants to take all your money, and you're right. Do you want you and your family to have the maximum lifetime benefit from your accumulated retirement wealth? Or do you want it to slip away through costly mistakes or planning errors, or go to taxes and Uncle Sam, instead of a family legacy and keeping it in the family and utilizing it yourself during retirement and then hopefully beyond, right?
Yeah, and like we've already had a couple meetings with people from our workshop 3 nights ago, and it's funny that as we're talking, they're just very talking about their portfolio, talking about their investments, talking about their nest egg and how they have it invested. And it's like, listen, we're going to go far beyond that. We told you that at the seminar, and all of a sudden you see the light bulb going. They're going, wait a minute, we're going to talk about stuff that I haven't talked about before. Well, that's exactly right, because this is the key. First of all, let's identify the problem. The realization is there are 4 costs, things that are costing you that are you spending money, that's a cost, but that's a fun cost. You get something in return. But it's overpayment of taxes, so paying more than necessary across your lifetime. How the risk of sequencing as far as investments versus the market. And the portfolio, people talk about rebuilding, and we'll talk about that as we go through today's show. But early those losses, when they occur, they really hammer home the point that you're taking money and the market is taking money from your portfolio at the same time. So what does that mean? Coordination gap is the biggest one. When I was vice chairman of Investors Capital and I worked with people that had serious 7-figure accounts, you know, people like the Wall Street says, we don't provide tax advice. Let me tell you something. You got $10 million and you're sitting in that conference room, there's a tax planner integrated. But this is the key. When I sat there at the table, I'm sitting there at the table with high-end estate planning attorneys, high-end tax strategists, high-end income tools that nobody else really has unless you're super wealthy. And then portfolio management was kind of my department. So, and all of that is coordinated because everybody's in the same room. But the average person out there, they've got an attorney that drafted their will somewhere across town or another state or another county, whatever. They've got their investment person, or maybe they're a do-it-yourselfer with people in Boston like Fidelity or King of Prussia with Vanguard. They might have an annuity person they deal with or something, but those people are never in the same room. And if they're in the same room, if you
That's
have
right.
that strategy being built in the same room, then it's become super efficient. And then finally, leakage with legacy. That's where Uncle Sam and Aunt Irma come live with you. It's just they come live with your family, not you, with your kids. And your kids are like, this is an unwelcome house guest. How do we prevent this person from coming into my house? So
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I mean, and those are the invisible costs that you talk about, tax drag, sequence, the gaps, right, in your coordination and not working together. And basically what you're talking about, and I love the term you use, silo. People have these things siloed, but if they're all working together cohesively and communicating, and you have somebody quarterbacking and coaching, and I'm not going to name names, Bruce Smith, but I know a guy that would be a great quarterback and a coach to coordinate all these things and legacy leakage, like you say. So I think this is really, really good that people understand this. And this is why you're getting such a good response, is because it just makes sense. And people don't want to have those things. You don't want to have a tax drag. You don't want to suffer a sequence of returns risk, and you don't want to suffer from, legacy issues, right?
Well, I mean, and then a number of people are telling us. The one gentleman this morning, he said, his advisor's retiring. He said, and I met the new guy, and he's a young guy, and he's like, oh, we're going to do some really wonderful things together. And he's like, I have no interest in what he's talking about, but he seems like this is the direction we're going to go. And at WealthCare, we all, we don't have separate teams. We don't have separate. Bruce has clients. I have clients. No, you're a client of our firm at WealthCare. Every one of us has exactly the same playbook.
Yeah.
So Bruce can coach it, Chris can coach it, I can coach it, Eli can coach it. We're all on the same page. And if you talk to one of us, you're going to get the same answer pretty much. And if we don't know the answer, we'll tell you that. But because that's the crazy part of this. We say about beyond portfolio planning. You can have exactly the same market performance, the same stock market, 2 different retirees, and one does not have coordination of their planning. So what do they have? Well, they don't have a tax plan. So it's just whatever will be, will be. I said that the other day. I said, "Que sera, sera." And it's kind of like, oh, wow, you're really dating yourself. Like, okay, thanks a
Que
lot.
sera, sera. Boy, I haven't heard
Yeah,
that one in a while. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very much, young Tony.
Sure.
Um, income. Oh, we use a 4% rule here. Okay, that's weak, but fine. Risk is managed without integrating protection. It's just, if you have a 70-30, 60-40, whatever the portfolio is, you have bonds and stocks. That's very traditional. And then finally, your legacy is really, do you have the paperwork? Do you have the will, the power of attorney, what have you? But if you have the same exact market, but you have a tax strategy, look forward looking to reduce costs, if you have advanced planning that's not just looking for secure income, but secure income with increasing income every couple of years over the next 25 to 30 years, that's superior. What if you have a risk assessment, but your portfolio is built, as Warren Buffett says, with more upside potential than downside potential, because we're integrating wealth protection and wealth preservation for a majority of the assets that wasn't there before. So if your if your portfolio is more stable, then that's what drives the engine as far as the income. And finally, a financially focused legacy transfer to your family members is not just the paperwork that says here's who gets what, but basically let's look at it from a financial standpoint. Without the planning, how much does Uncle Sam take of the wealth you have accumulated for you and your family? And then with planning, how can we reduce what Uncle Sam takes and make sure it stays with their family?
Sure.
That's coordination. It's the same market performance, superior results, superior values with coordination versus without.
So without coordination, your assets are distributed. You haven't had long-term tax coordination. You're not looking far enough ahead and having a plan in place. So even though it's the same market, it's a very different outcome if you have full coordination, which is what you do for your clients, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, so when you say it's one thing to say I have a comprehensive plan, but
Sure.
a coordinated plan, because it's like chess. You move one piece, it affects all the other pieces on the board, and that's the key element. Is that you have multiple strategies with multiple disciplines, and it used to be that you had to have, like, I even talked about it at the workshop. Monica has some health problems, and we've dealt with it at different health institutions locally and Johns Hopkins and things. And then finally, we just weren't getting where we wanted to be health wise. And finally, I said, look, I'll take you to the best doctor on the planet. We'll find it. We'll fly there. And it turns out, for the particular malady that she was diagnosed with and been treated for 9 years, I took her to Cleveland Clinic. And Cleveland Clinic is like, okay, on this day, you're going to meet with these doctors. On this day, these doctors. And finally, the third day, these doctors. And then they will all coalesce. And then the lead doctor will meet with you and give you the team's findings. And the team's findings in this case was what you were diagnosed with, you don't have, and you've been taking all these meds have been destroying you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of the most eye-opening experiences.
Wow.
And this is exactly the same thing, is that people, I mean, as we talk with them, and even as we talk in the workshop, they're like, I've never been exposed to this. I've never heard. I didn't know there were firms that could do these things, all under one roof. And it's the technology now that, you don't have to have that room full of people. The technology is out there, if you've got a higher level, elite level type advisor. And that's what we bring to the table, which works very well. So, I mean, like I say, the response was unbelievably, I mean, it exceeded all of our expectations. And we don't do a lot of these. We do them from time to time. Actually, one gentleman is a very senior person in the healthcare field and wanted to know if we would come do for a large group of doctors, like, yeah, we can do that. Sure. But, we want to, people have been listening to this show and putting up with you and me, we, give them a shot, and that's the name of the game, because the key to this whole thing is, it's not a question of if, it's a question of how.
I've heard you
How
say that
you-
before. What do you mean by that?
How are you going to structure withdrawals to get the
Okay.
maximum value out of your nest egg? How are you going to manage your tax exposure to get the most out of your nest egg? And how will you coordinate all of the key controls, all the key factors, which is risk, taxes, income, and legacy, and have the right combination for you and your family and your situation? And that's where the wheels come off, is that the financial industry, whether it's insurance, investments, what have you, they're always looking at for one size fits all, mass produced, big box store solutions. Buy this and you'll be fine. When you start talking taxes, legacy planning stuff, you can have two people that work for the same company with the same exact portfolio, with the same size portfolio, and they'll have two totally different outcomes because their family dynamic is different, their needs are different, their income needs are different, all these things. So it has to be custom built for you. And that's what, for people that want to optimize what they're doing, get the most value out of it, you have to have a custom plan that takes advantage of all of these items, all these control features.
Well, and that's so it comes down to coordination and control, and that makes all the difference, right? Control.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think about it. If you're talking about control, and I want you to kind of tell me what you would visualize. If I said, it's, I always remember Chester Karras, and there's a name you probably don't know, but
No.
many, 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 many moons ago, back when U.S. Air was flying airplanes.
Ah, US Air. Yep.
Yeah, you sat in every airplane seat had the same magazine, and Chester Karras owned the centerfold of every aviation magazine in this country, and he had a motivational package thing. But I'll never forget. He says, in life, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. That was his number one quote. It was blasted on the headline of the centerfold in every seat of every airplane in this country, month after month after month. I saw his stuff. Didn't matter what airline I was on, and it's basically, in retirement, you're not going to get, there's no just simple throw it up against the wall, see what sticks, and everything will be fine. You've got to look at what's controllable, focus on what's controllable. Are you getting the maximum value by controlling risk for your situation? So can you kind of envision the knobs, that people are turning and saying, I want the most, I want the most, I want the most in the key areas?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, for sure, and I think that, it is really good. The more control you have, the better you're able to stop, the loss, and you're able to, better plan for the future. So, this is huge, and I know you have something called the retirement value control system, that you talk about, and that's what this is all about, right? That's what
Yeah,
you're
those are the
referring
four
to?
those are the 4 key elements, we need to kind of throw it out there because, if you're in the seminar, it's kind of a live environment. So, at the end, we're gonna put the opportunity in front of you. So we probably need to do it during the show, which is, if what we're saying today as you listen to the show is like, look, that's, again, you be the judge. Does this sound different to you? But if it does, you're kind of like, hey, I want to optimize mine. If there's a way to do this, I would like to do it. There's two simple ways to get on board. One is to get on the schedule, call 888-888-5601. We had several nice people call last week that we're going to be meeting with. If you want to know more about this, as we talk about it, go to the word why, WHY, whywealthcare.com. That's wealthcare with a K. So whywealthcare.com. And you can see a lot of little video snippets that are less than 2 minutes each that I've done, to kind of explain, why do people do business with WealthCare? What is different about them? What is unique about them? So give us a call at 888-888-5601. Get on the calendar or visit whywealthcare.com, and you can click right there and schedule a 20-minute discovery call, a 20-minute retirement value discovery call. It's just a conversation. We had people that were like, do I have to bring anything? Nope. You don't need any preparation at all. You don't need to go dig out documents, tax returns, wills, none of that stuff. Let's talk. And based on what we know and we've done for so long, I've had a couple of those calls this morning with people, and in 20 minutes we were able to assess, hey, I think we can do this, because you can't be a client at WealthCare unless our planning shows that we can unlock significant, massive additional value for you. And we want
Yeah,
you to be the judge of that as you look at it, and that's what people are looking for. So yeah,
that's excellent.
yeah.
Well, hey, we need to take a quick break here, and you already gave that number, but I want to give the number and the website really quick one more time. Listeners, pick up the phone, call 888-888-5601, or go to whywealthcare.com. That's Y spelled out WHY, wealthcare, and that's care with a K.com. And we'll be right back.